If you have ever been through 2-week wait, you already know. They say it's 2 weeks, but it feels like eternity. When I was in my 2-week wait, I've watched countless 2-week wait videos and I feel obliged to add to that pool of videos. I hope this video helps someone who is in their 2-week wait, and I hope you guys can relate to some of the symptoms that I observed in my 2-week wait. I wanted to start with a word of caution. This was my successful cycle. A lot of these things can also happen because of progesterone in your luteal phase. So it could easily be your one of those not successful cycles as well. But because it happened and I tracked them in my successful cycle, there's this confirmation bias that's happening. Take it for what you will, but let's get into it day by day. If you're first time stumbling upon my video, here's a quick context. Karthik and I started trying in August and our successful cycle was November-December. December 9th is when we found out that we were pregnant. That was cycle 4 for us. I had been tracking my cervical mucus, my basal body temperature, as well as ovulation itself using the advanced ovulation kit as well as the cheapy ovulation strips. Now first, let's talk about DPO0 or the ovulation day. Again, I can't be sure, but because I tracked using the clear blue advanced OPK stick, the cheapy stick and temperatures, just correlating based off all of this and cervical mucus, I think I ovulated on November 27th, which was cycle day 16th for me. I got the static smiley on November 25th in that clear blue advanced OPK, and I got the darkest line in the cheapy stick on November 26th. On 27th morning, the temperature rose and it stayed elevated after that. So based on all these factors as well as my personal observation of cervical mucus, I feel like the ovulation day was on November 27th. And let's treat that as our DPO 0. On that particular day, I have never experienced any cramps or anything like that. A lot of the people I've read on Reddit and in other forums that on ovulation day they experience cramps, but I've never had that in the past. And this cycle, the cycle that I'm referring to, cycle number 4, also I didn't have any cramps. Another thing to note is on November 27th or the ovulation day, the basal body temperature was 97.17 for me. Now let's talk about DPO 1 to 4. As always, I was tracking my BBT on all the days, and from DPO 1 to 4, nothing substantial happened except that the BBT stayed elevated. I'm looking at the numbers. It was 97.53, 97.47, this is DPO2, DPO3 97.52 and DPO4 97.52. So if you see, all these temperatures are above 97.17, which was on the ovulation day. So it continued to stay elevated, nothing else happened, and because I was also tracking using my ovulation strips, the ovulation line itself was starting to fade in these days. No other symptoms in these days. Now let's talk about DPO 5, which is 2nd of December for me. The temperature once again rose to 97.8. Earlier it was more around 97.5. Now it is 97.8. The cervical mucus changed to sticky white. And other than that, there were no other symptoms. Although on this particular day, DPO 5, I had eggs and cottage cheese for breakfast and I got that yucky feeling. But this has happened to me. If I've had a lot of eggs over a period of time, or sometimes certain combinations, or even sometimes if the taste is not what I like I want to eat on a day, I just feel yucky about it. But because I was deep in my 2-week wait and all the pregnancy stuff, I was starting to take note of little things that I was feeling. If it was not a TTC period or a 2-week wait period, then I would just brush it off. But this time I had that yucky feeling, but I just thought, okay, whatever, I'm feeling something. In hindsight, if you think about it, DPO5 implantation hasn't happened. This means nothing. It's just progesterone doing its thing. But as women, we always want to correlate things when we are deep into that cycle, or as humans, not just women. As humans, we tend to do that, and I've noted all of this. That's why I'm telling all of this. So I had eggs and cheese, which is somewhat of a usual breakfast for me, but that day I had that yucky feeling. Now let's talk about 6 and 7 DPO. Temperature on DPO 6 was 97.86 and on 7 DPO was 97.89. So if you observe, in the first few days it was around in the first few DPOs, it was about 97.5 range. Now it has gone up to 97.8 ranges. And cervical mucus was changing to wet white. Earlier I said sticky white. Now it is feeling wettish down there, wet white. And in terms of other symptoms, this is the interesting part. I started feeling emotionally heavy on 6th DPO. I'm not someone who is very emotional. I'm very rational and I tried to make sense of things. I don't think I teared up or anything like that, but I could feel that I was being a bit more empathetic, which is not very usual for me, and a bit more emotional than what I'm used to in the luteal phase. You know how we all have our mood swings and all that? There is a threshold. I know to what extent I feel. This particular cycle, I was feeling a bit different on DPO 6. I was feeling emotionally heavy that I couldn't put into words. And I tried sharing to my husband as well, but we just brushed it off. We didn't want to think too much about it. This was all on DPO 6. The temperature was 97.86. Cervical mucus is turning into wet whitish texture, and emotionally I'm starting to feel different, heavy, where I hadn't observed in other cycles of mine. Now let's talk about the 7 DPO day. Temperature was 97.89. Cervical mucus again around that wet white texture, and on top of emotional heaviness, on this particular day I'm starting to feel warmer. Not fever kind of thing, but generally warmer. My body as such is a very warm body. If I touch someone's hands, they would say, oh, your hands are very warm. In general, it's a warm body, but on this particular day, I'm feeling warmer than usual. Now that combined with emotional heaviness and me being in this 2-week wait, and before emotional heaviness I had that yucky feeling when I ate breakfast. So all of this combined, I'm starting to, I couldn't help, but I could start feeling that there's something happening this cycle. Once again, all of this are typical symptoms that can happen in your luteal phase. Your body temperature increases. Progesterone causes your body temperatures to increase. But if you're in your 2-week wait, you're always going to track things and you're going to say, hey, this happened, that happened kind of thing. And this is my list of what happened on 6th and 7th DPO. Now let's talk about 8 and 9 DPO, which was December 5 and 6 for me. The temperature on 8 DPO was 97.79. It has gone down a little bit, but well over my cover line. The cervical mucus was lotion-like. That's what I've written. And symptoms was I was very fatigued. So not a lot of people talk about cervical mucus. So cervical mucus, when I say lotion-like, I'm saying it's more smooth and creamy. The temperature dipped for a bit because earlier it was all about 97.89 or 86. It dipped a little bit, but it didn't matter much. It was well over my cover line. This is all on 8 DPO. And yeah, okay, I've also written that I was extremely fatigued. When I say I was extremely fatigued, what I've meant is my energy levels were low. I was still able to do everything and I did everything, but it just felt like it needed a lot of energy or a lot of effort to do the things. This was 8 DPO. Now on 9 DPO, the temperature rose back to 97.95 and cervical mucus was thick and creamy. Previous day it was smooth and creamy or lotion like, and on next day, which is 9 DPO, it was thick and creamy. And I have said that I felt my breasts were feeling heavy. Besides the low energy, I am also feeling heavy breasts on 9 DPO. Now let's pause for a minute and let's talk about cervical mucus. So the cervical mucus changed from sticky to thick and creamy. So sticky white at the start of the luteal phase, early DPOs 1, 2, 3, it was sticky wet white types, and now it has changed to more thick and creamy. But the interesting bit was this in between day, which was lotion like smooth and creamy. That was distinct. I hadn't observed in my previous cycles. Once again, I don't know if we should be correlating all of this to progesterone, or in hindsight, because this was a successful cycle for me, should I just say, hey, for successful cycles this could happen? I don't know, take what you will. I'm just sharing my tracking and my data that I observed. Also, by this point I had learned that I should not symptom spot every single thing, because if you have watched my previous TTC video, you know that when you are in TTC and in your 2-week wait, you tend to symptom spot a lot. By cycle 4, I was mentally prepared to not symptom spot as much, and I was not trying to make a lot out of it, but I'm starting to get the feeling that I'm feeling very different. I'm feeling fatigued, I'm feeling a bit more emotional than normal, I'm feeling warmer than normal. But again, I don't want to symptom spot, and I didn't want to also test. I know people out there they usually start testing from like 6 DPO or something. I was already around 9 DPO and I was holding myself from not testing at all. Now let's talk about 10 DPO, December 7. Now this day is a notable day. The temperature on this day was 98.33. It is the highest of all the days in this cycle. So temperature was 98.33, and I've not written anything about cervical mucus here because it's possible it was once again thick and creamy, similar to previous day. But in terms of symptoms, I've written I was overwhelmed, I skipped gym, and I saw a tiny brown dot in the evening at 5:15 p.m. Let me talk about all of this. So yes, temperature was 98.33. On that particular morning, Karthik and I, we were meant to go to the gym. I am not someone who skips gym at all, but on that particular day, I was feeling so fatigued and so different throughout, because in the past days, I'm feeling heavy breasts and tiredness, but I'm still pushing through and doing work and all that. I don't usually get PMS symptoms as such. Maybe once a while I would feel like eating brownie or churros or something sweeter, but that's a rare occurrence on a normal cycle. This particular cycle, I'm starting to feel different, and on this 10 DPO day, which was December 8th, I'm starting to feel very flat. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go to gym, and I asked Karthik to go to gym, and I just went for a walk myself. Even then, I was not walking at a pace that I would normally walk if I'm skipping a gym. So I'm just casually walking, and it was one of the notable days throughout this period. The other thing was, in the evening, we were meant to go and have dinner with some of our friends, potluck style dinner. Just before we would leave our house, I went to toilet, and when I wiped, I saw a tiny brown dot. Again, we were rushing to head out, so I didn't make a lot out of it, but I've written tiny brown dot equals implantation and question mark. In hindsight, if you think about it, I'm still within the range. It's 10 DPO. Maybe implantation happened with the tiny dip in temperature on, I think it was 8 DPO or something, and then temperature started going up. Hence, I've got like implantation bleeding or something. I don't know. In hindsight, we can make all of this. But I've also read that a lot of the people tend to spot in their luteal phase, or just before their period starts, they spot for like a couple of days or something like that, which is not very usual for me because we were rushing out. I didn't make a lot of it, but I noted tiny brown dot equals implantation question, and then we just head out. I remember feeling very overwhelmed when we were at our friend's place, very overwhelmed, but I didn't want to show in front of anyone, and I was also very tired. I couldn't do as much work as I would do otherwise, but I still pushed through and did it. In hindsight, my body was doing everything it needs to do to conceive this baby. Now let's talk about 11 DPO, which was December 8th, one of the hardest days. Temperature was 98.06. Previous day it was 98.33. This time it is 98.06. Still well above my cover line. I'm not worried, or maybe I'm starting to worry a little bit. If the temperatures keep dropping from there on, it means that my period was meant to start. But I have to give it a couple more days to see if it was going to drop. So again, I'm not taking it to heart. However, that tiredness that I spoke about earlier kept going. On December 11th also, the tiredness was there. It was just increasing day by day. It started maybe a couple of days before. I was pushing through it. On the same day, this was Monday from memory, December 8th, I'm just feeling emotionally different. I don't know how to put it into words, and very tired. In hindsight, if you layer all of this, the feeling of yuckiness when you eat, and then that tiny brown dot, cervical mucus changing from a wet white to thick and creamy texture, the emotional heaviness that you can't necessarily put into words, and the feeling of being overwhelmed as well as fatigue. I'm starting to observe that all of this is not feeling normal for me. And if you have seen one of our previous videos on this 11 DPO, in the night we were watching TV in this exact same room, and at one point I just went ahead and slept on the floor or on our rug. I'm not someone that would do that. I was that tired and that exhausted. I didn't do anything different to be that exhausted, right? I didn't like move homes or do like a crazy workout or anything. That was the interesting part. If I'm exhausted because I did like an entire day of heavy physical work, makes sense, but here I've not, and that this was the bit that was giving us some clues that maybe this is the cycle that's happening. But yeah, you know what happened. This was the temperature, 11 DPO, and mentally me and Karthik had decided or discussed that we will be testing on the morning of December 9th, which is 12 DPO for us. So all I had to do was give it this day, live through this day, deal with whatever happens on this day, and then the next morning we were going to test anyway. Now let's talk about 12 DPO. This is the morning that we wanted to test with, our first morning urine. But before we go ahead and test, I still tracked the temperature. It was 98.24. So it gave me hope. 98.33, 98.06. It didn't dip down, it went up. 98.24. Cervical mucus, it was similar. It's not changing much. Symptom wise, I don't have the energy that I used to have before. And that was that weird feeling that I had observed, and I had shared it with Karthik also. Now, besides that, we tested it. You all know, we revealed in our pregnancy reveal video and so many other videos as well, that on December 9th, we saw that faint line on that cheapy stick. Then we also tested using the expensive one, and it turned out to be positive. And we were super duper happy, very excited. Can't put into words once again what it all meant and how our life was going to change for better and all of it. Now, because this cycle turned into a successful cycle, and now if you look back, I can read all of these symptoms and say that, oh, these were some of the cues that the body was giving, like being extremely tired than normal for me, being a bit extra emotional for me. I'm not that emotional person, but I wouldn't tear up watching a movie or just listening to someone's sad story. I'd empathize a little bit, but I'm a bit more rational person. So those were the little subtle differences that I was noticing. Also heavy breasts. I've never had those kind of things like heavy breasts and all that. I know people get it. Maybe I haven't observed, but in the previous cycles that I was tracking, all of this didn't happen. So it was all interesting. Now in hindsight, it proves to me that these were some of the symptoms that was giving me clues that this was turning into a very successful cycle. Now, if you are in your 2-week wait and you're noticing some of these things, it's highly likely that progesterone is doing it, unless you have not seen it for yourself in a different cycle of yours. For example, as I said, I hadn't seen for myself all these exhaustion in my previous cycle. Yes, I've been exhausted before, but that is because I've done a lot of work. Here I'm not doing any new. I'm just like cooking, working, doing gym and all that, which is all very normal, and there is like a normal level of exhaustion for me. But in this 2-week wait, there was this extra level of exhaustion where I didn't want to do a lot of things, but I was still pushing through to do those things. So it really depends from individual to individual, and here is my experience on my 2-week wait. Let's quickly touch on 13th DPO. This is December 10 for me. Basal body temperature was 98.11, and I've written symptoms as dry skin. In the first few days after I tested positive, I was getting dry skin. Now it's winter. Once again, I'm getting a lot of dry skin, but not as much as it was during this 2-week wait or around this time. It was really dry. It was getting so dry on that period. So I've written dry skin, and on this day, I've also used that expensive clear blue stick to see what it was. It came back saying 1 to 2 weeks. We did this on 13 DPO, which was December 10. Now let's talk about what actually meant something looking back, because I spoke about a lot of things. Some of these things meant something for me, but some of these things are just progesterone. The first few things that stood out for me was that emotional intensity from 6 DPO. It was a lot stronger than usual. The next is body feeling warmer around 7 DPO. Not like feverish, but warmer than usual. Slightly uncomfortable, let's say that. Then other things were fatigue for no reason. The next was cervical mucus shift on that 8th DPO. It was smooth and creamy. Now only if you keep observing for yourself you can notice that. I had started observing this from the past few cycles, so I was able to spot it. Next was that temperature spike on 10 DPO. It went to 98.33. There's a pattern, they call it like a triphasic pattern or something, where you can clearly see temperature rising, going flat and then rising once again, or maybe temperature rising, little bit of a dip and then rising again kind of thing. So there's a pattern. If you've been monitoring your BBT for a bit, you'd know that. That was another clue. In the earlier cycle, I hadn't seen that shift around 7 to 10 DPO, but this time I saw that shift. The next one was heavy breaths at 9 DPO. Again, it is not normal for me. Tiny brown dot on 10 DPO. Again, not normal for me. And no temperature dip at all until 12 DPO. For me, temperature dip was usually happening the day I was going to get period or one day before, but it would slowly start tapering. Here it didn't taper, it was kind of going up or staying around the same numbers. So all of these stood out for me. The things that did not mean much was around 5 DPO, I had that yucky feeling of eggs and cheese or whatever. That meant nothing. Some emotional dips that I was having throughout my 2-week wait, that meant nothing. The random, when you're thinking, when you're in your TTC and in your 2-week wait, you would feel random pinches here and there. All that meant nothing. I was feeling that randomly and I've written that around 2 DPO and all. I don't think that matters at all. If you're watching from your own 2-week wait, I'd like to say a few things. You don't need to have all these symptoms to be pregnant. And having every single symptom from this list also doesn't guarantee pregnancy. Hope the internet tells this loud and clear so we don't spiral. Some women see a lot of symptoms that are very different to the list that I told you. And some other women don't see anything. They feel completely normal and they still get their big fat positive. Your body is not my body and my body is not someone else's body. Each to their own. What I'd like to say is, yes, it's very hard. Yes, we are going to be symptom spotting, but try not to think too much into it. Try to be as stress-free as you can. Collect as much data as you can. Only because I was collecting all this data, in hindsight, I was able to see that this is what the data meant. And it also helped me understand my body better. So data tells you what happened. It doesn't tell you what is happening in the moment. Unless you give it like a couple of days, it's not going to tell you like what's happening. You need to give it a couple of days. It's more like a lagging indicator. Collect all the data, but don't delve too much into it. But if you are someone who feels like, oh no, I cannot stop myself from spiraling, talk to someone, go have a coffee, go for a walk. And when you're having your coffee, if you're being cautious, maybe try decaf. If you're controlling your caffeine and all that for TTC purposes, yeah, try decaf. But yeah, don't stress too much about this. No matter what happens, you still matter. If not this cycle, it's going to be another cycle. Start collecting data if you're interested. Don't delve too much into data and things will happen when it's meant to happen. If you want to follow along for rest of this pregnancy series as well as nursery series and all of it, please subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in another one. Bye.